So let's go on to animation. Comparing it to the other adaptations, it does a very good job, but I say it's become more generic in craft. There's a lot of time when the characters are frozen in place when talking and stand still as typical anime does. Nothing much like the 1997 movie, which did this so much better. It can be very fluent in times, don't get me wrong, but it can be that at one point, but suddenly freeze frames at another point. Also, there isn't times when cartoonish movement and logic is done so much, and expressions aren't as prominent unless you count either the human characters or some of the younger animals. Everything else seems almost blank-faced. Movements are also not too exaggerated for the animals they're animating, but yet again, the amount of work put into them depends on what animal they're talking about. Now, once again, this is a common trait in anime in general, so I'm not pointing this out as a complete fault of the film. It just felt like a downgrade compared to what it did already. So now the artwork and designs. Now this, of course, given when this was made, previous works are gonna pale in comparison to it, as the visuals in the movie are highly detailed, especially in the background designs. But my main issue is with the animals. The humans are fine, their typical anime looks for anime characters typically do, but the animals just look, I think, a little too realistic. The 1989 series did try for a more realistic look, but many of the animals still showed a sense of cartoonish expression. But not in the case of this movie, and some of them just look downright weird. I mean, look at this hippo. Have you known hippos with eyes looking like that? It just looks so jarring when you put these real animals with not so real humans and elements. And especially more so when you put them next to Leo. Look at the design they gave him. I know he's supposed to be a cub and all, but Leo has gone through a far less realistic design, and it just looks so out of place. Look at this version from 1991's Symphonic Poem. Leo may look human in the face, but he still has a snout, as little as it is, and his head is properly proportioned to the rest of his body. Now look at this one. This is basically a human head on a cat body, with the head looking far too big for the body it's supposed to belong to, even if he's just a cub. Honestly, when I see this cartoon cat running after this real-life zebra, it just doesn't look right. It's kind of like putting a Littlest Pet Shop character into the real world and seeing how well they do. Now to the music, and this one's going to be a bit shorter. So much of this series has always been used to strong orchestra, with a few exceptions, to show off the power and force of Panja and the jungle they are in. Does it do that with the 2009 movie? Not really. The 2009 soundtrack I don't think packs that kind of a punch. They do have traditional music from the jungle playing at times, but most of it is your typical standard music you would hear in an anime at the time. There isn't anything too unique about them, but they still do the job and aren't really that bad. It's just it doesn't have the kind of powerful feel you get what the franchise is usually famous for. So, what do I fully think of the movie? Well, I wouldn't call it fantastic, but it isn't terrible either. But I will say it is downgraded when you compare it to everything else. The message it has is still as strong as usual, arguably even stronger and more modernized. And the visuals are indeed very lovely to look at. Unfortunately, everything else kind of brings it down. The characters are either shadows of their former selves or don't offer too much. The animation's more stiff than the previous movie's glory. The animal designs can be kind of jarring. And above all else, this doesn't feel like Jungle Emperor, you know? I'm afraid the magic that the franchise had for the longest time just isn't here. What a bittersweet note to end the project on. If you followed my review series up until now, then you know just how much Kimba has evolved and changed over the years. He has adapted, changed, from TV series to games to movies and such, and I'd say he's become a cult classic in the world of Japan. It's a bit rough for me to admit that while I do very much wish that something officially new would come out of the franchise, I have severe doubts. There's been no word of anything new since the 2019 dubbed version of the 2009 film, and even then I don't think there's going to be anything more anytime soon, if anything at all. Either way, this has been quite the trip. Took way longer than I expected or wanted, but every road ends somewhere. Well, everybody, I'll see you all later. Neon-Sphinx, out.